number 12. Subordinate temple number 12. Hello. As we get started, well, before we get started, let's go ahead and open. And I'd like to ask Brother Chris Jim Gray L to stand and assist us with the opening prayer. Five on the left, two on the right. Face the east, please. Hello. Father of the universe. Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation, by night and by day. So we pray. Islam. Please stay standing for a reading of the Divine Constitution and Bylaws by Brother Murray Bay.
Islam. The Moorish Science Temple of America, the Divine Constitution and Bylaws. Act 1. The Grand Sheikh and the Chairman of the Moorish Science Temple of America is empowered to make law and enforce laws with the assistance of the Prophet and the Grand Body of the Moorish Science Temple of America. The Assistant Grand Sheikh is to assist the Grand Sheikh in all affairs if he lives according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, and it is known before the members of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Act 2. All meetings are to be open and closed properly according to the Circle 7 and love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Friday is our holy day of rest because on a Friday, the first man was formed in flesh. And on a Friday, the first man departed out of flesh and ascended into his Father God Allah. For that cause, Friday is a holy day for all Muslims all over the world. Act 3. Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice must be proclaimed and practiced by all members of the Moorish Science Temple of America. No member is to put in danger or accuse falsely his brother or sister on any occasion at all that may harm his brother or sister, because Allah is love. Act 4. All members must preserve these holy and divine laws, and all members must obey the laws of the government, because by being a Moorish American, you are a part and parcel of the government and must live the life accordingly. Act 5. This organization of the Moorish Science Temple of America is not to cause any confusion or to overthrow the laws and constitution of the said government, but to obey hereby. Act 6. With us, all members must proclaim their nationality, and we are teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, that they may know that they are a part and a partial of this said government, and know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, black people, or Ethiopians, because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. But this is a new era of time now, and all men now must proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live and the nations of the earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained Noble True Ali, the prophet, to redeem his people from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites who inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. Act 7. All members must properly attend their meetings and become a part and a partial of all uplifting acts of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Members must pay their dues and keep in line with all necessities of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Then you are entitled to the name of faithful. Husband, you must support your wife and children. Wife, you must obey your husband and take care of your children and look after the duties of your household. Sons and daughters must obey father and mother and be industrious and become a part of the uplifting of fallen humanity. All Moorish Americans must keep their hearts and minds pure with love and their bodies clean with water. This divine covenant is from your holy prophet, Noble True Ali, through the guidance of his Father God, Allah. Noble True Ali, founder. Moorish American prayer. Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation by night and by day. Through his holy prophet, True Ali. Amen. Moorish Science Temple of America, home office of Noble True Ali, Chicago, Illinois, USA.
Islam.
Islam.
I'm going to give you a reading. We read at every meeting some words from the prophet's literature. It comes from this book, The Moorish Literature. And I really want a really interactive group. We had a really dynamic time the last time and some other times, and I'm hoping we have just as dynamic a time this time, and that I don't have to start like, I should have brought, I don't know, popcorn, so I can just like toss it out there. Oh, you answer. I might call some names though. Just kidding. Just kidding. Maybe. If anybody has a copy, go ahead and pull it out. If you don't have a copy and would like one, let us know at the end of this meeting, and we'll see about getting it. Sound good? Prophet warns all Muslims to be read at every meeting. I hereby inform all members that they must end all radical speeches while at work, in their homes, or on the streets. We are for peace and not destruction. Stop flashing your cards at Europeans. It causes confusion. Remember, your card is for your salvation. Failure to obey these orders will be of severe consequence. We are for love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And when these principles are violated, justice must then take its course. Any member or group of members who hold malicious feelings towards the temple or the prophet or violate the divine covenant of the Moorish movement will receive their reward from Allah for their unjust deeds. All true Moors will and must obey the law as laid down to them by their prophet. If they lose confidence in their prophet, they should turn in their card and button, cease wearing their turban and fez, and return to the state where I, the prophet, found you. This is a holy and divine movement founded by the prophet Noble Jarali. And if the prophet is not right, the temple is not right. The prophet, therefore, is sending out the divine plea to all Moorish Americans that they do their part in protecting their prophet and the temple. This is an everlasting movement founded by the prophet through the will of Allah to redeem his people from their sinful ways. Peace. Noble Jarali. The comment about that is, people might ask, well, why do we read it all the time? We read it all the time because just like other programming is happening, reprogramming needs to happen. So we need to remember what we should and should not do as a people in order to assist with the uplifting of all humanity. Islam? First, I give praise to Father God Allah for allowing all of us to be here today and for giving us our prophet to lead us and give us information about what we all need to do and the way that we should live life. I give honors to the first Supreme Grand Sheikh, Brother Emilia, and all the divine lineage all the way down to our current Supreme Grand Sheikh. I give honors to all of you for being here, listening to me, being a part of this, supporting me, and supporting the movement to uplift all humanity. Islam? Well, as I was thinking about today, actually, I've been thinking about today for, I don't know, probably a few weeks as it was coming up on today, as we do, and we don't usually realize that's what's happening. And then on Friday, I realized that was what's happening because as Brother Murray Bacon attests to, we had this ongoing conversation. It started on Friday, and it started about chapter 8, which is what we're going to go into today. But then as I thought about it more, it went back over to all of the other things that we discussed in the past and to line up with things that we have been discussing in the last 2 to 3 weeks. So I'm going to recap some of those things because some of you weren't here. We got some visitors. And for some of us who were here, you might not see the tie-in. And I believe that anytime any of us are drawn together, we should actually be able to see how these things come together and how they work together to help us and to help us be able to help other people. So basically, when I think about a recap, and I do this when I'm presenting to my students at my full-time job, and when I'm talking to my kids, I say things like, have you heard this before? But if you haven't heard this before, then you have no building block to build on. And sciencey by nature, so I'm always thinking about building blocks. Well, when I thought about the building blocks that might not be science, building, not just science, building blocks occur in so many other areas of life. So you have science and medicine, building block is an atom. You have technology, building block might be a bit, but that still goes back to that atom. You have engineering and mathematics, it might be a point, but it still all goes back to that atom. So you have to first have that grounding foundation and know that it exists and understand that it exists and understand what the meaning of that atom is, that is what there is the building block to everything in order to build off of it. So A couple of weeks ago, we talked about the workshop of the mind. Does anybody remember that? Some tools of the workshop of the mind. What do we think? What do you think the purpose of discussing the workshop of the mind is? Think about the word workshop.
Perfect.
To perfect?
Mm-hmm.
To perfect. So to perfect the mind would be the purpose of the workshop. How do we do that? Using what? Tools. What are some of those tools? The right information. Let's go a little bit deeper. I know there's some people in this room. What? Studies. But there's some people in this room. I'm looking at some people in this room that can tell me what some of these tools are.
One might be, a representation could be the compass.
Oh, so the compass. So the compass draws circles around our passions and desires to keep them within bounds, right? So I don't know, there's movies where, your people are inside your circle, but we need to keep our passions inside our circles. Some other tools?
Islam, square.
The square. The square comes to mind. Let's see, the square. We use it to measure our lines and straighten out the crooked places of the way and make the corners of our conduct square. We're still keeping our conduct in bounds. Oh, I'm seeing a theme here. Y'all seeing a theme? Because I'm seeing a theme. What else?
Hammer.
Oh, we got a hammer. Let's see what we got. The hammer drives home the truth. So it all comes back to communication. How do we communicate? What do we do with the truth? To share with other people, right? First, we got to believe it. First, you have to know and accept that the truth exists. Then, you got to believe in what you know. Because it's real easy, and I see this all the time, including myself. We can know something, but it's awfully hard to believe that we know what we know. Because we as a people have been taught that if you have something that's opposite of what everybody else is doing, there's something wrong with you. Islam? So I'm a quit calling out the sheik over there. So thank you for supporting me. Some other things might be the axe you use to cut away the knotty parts, the useless, ungainly parts that get in the way. Use the axe to cut them away. Another one was the plane. The plane is to smooth those rough edges. We can have some pretty rough edges. Y'all have some pretty rough edges sometimes. And sometimes those rough edges can manifest when you don't expect them to. All of a sudden, it's like that itch. Something just got underneath your skin. You just had to react to it. Islam? Let's see, what else? We got the ladder. The ladder with its trinity of steps. Faith, hope, and love. And we climb, and on it we climb up to the dome of purity of life. And on the 12-step ladder, we ascend until we reach the pinnacle of that which life is spent to build the temple of perfected man, Islam. That's what the brother was talking about over here. We're working on our minds till we reach that place where we are at the pinnacle of perfected man. And once our spirit, soul, and body are in order, we will then have a life. Because again, we talked about this. The body will fade away. The soul will fade away. The spirit maintains. Islam? Next thing we talked about, because that was a couple of weeks ago, then we talked about last week, chapter 3, which is Elihu's lesson, Unity of Life. And in there, we talked about the education of Mary and Elizabeth. And why does anybody know why it was important for Mary and Elizabeth to gain this education?
Teach their children.
So they could teach their children. Who are the children of Mary and Elizabeth? I want somebody out there to tell me.
Wasn't it John and Jesus?
It was John. It was John and Jesus. Say it with your chest. Yes, they needed to educate their children. Their children were John and Jesus. John the Baptist being the harbinger of Jesus, who is love. That's our first charge, to love like Jesus loved. And could they have gotten there without Mary and Elizabeth being educated? What's the importance of that? Where do you receive your first education?
Mother.
In the womb. and then they were outside of the womb, and then from the woman. So if the woman didn't know, if Mary and Elizabeth didn't know, how could they train their sons? We talked about that there's two selves, S-E-L-F-S, the higher self and the lower self. We talked about what those actually mean and how the higher self brings the virtues, and the lower self brings all those carnal things, and we want to do all of these things that might not necessarily be good for us, but look good to us. My grandmother used to say, everything that looks good to you ain't always good for you. Who has heard that before?
Everybody.
Yeah, I see some hands out there, but it looks good. It might be clothing, it might be food, it might be those 26s, because you know we live on those 26s in here. It might be jewelry, it could be anything. It might be a person. It might be flashy cars and houses, anything, but it looks really good to you. It's rich in promises, but it gives you back nothing. We talked about how everything is bound by cords to every other living thing. Why is that important? So you can keep the balance. And any other ideas?
I guess as a reminder to reconnect.
A reminder to reconnect, or a reminder that we're all connected. Islam.
To share the information that we have with others.
And to be able to share the information that we have with others. If we think about it, if I stand here and you think about my hands, and my hands are just projectile, and they reach out there and they touch every one of you. And then every one of you, the projectile touches everybody else. And all we're sharing is love. Imagine what a generous and amazing message that we're actually sharing at a whole different level. We also talked about the holy instructions from the prophet about unity and the gifts of understanding. When I think about the gifts of understanding, the gift is not simply to understand it. It's to be able to understand the truth. So again, we go back to realizing that there is a truth and thinking about that truth, meditating on that truth, and accepting and believing in that truth, and then projecting in that truth so that we are living that truth and other people see it. What other way is there to show people? How does man learn? I got some sisters in here. I'm gonna need them to speak up some too, because y'all doing y'all thing today. Huh. It's the quieter ones that are here today. Start calling names. Maybe. You never know. So right, man learns not by being told, but by being shown. So the other thing we talked about, the knowledge of truth, like I've been saying, and communication of truth, like we've been saying. And who do we communicate the truth to? Now that's an easy question.
So
Islam, brother. While Allah communicates the truth to us, we communicate that we understand the truth to other people. Islam, what other people? Everyone. Communicate it to everyone. You communicate it to the ignorant for their own instruction, and you communicate it for the wise for thine own improvement. It's two powerful statements right there. Because we're talking about the foolish person and the wise person. The ignorant, foolish person is prideful, and they know everything there is to know except their own faults. Except their own follies. They don't know you're wrong. Me? Let me tell you how this goes. And that's something that a lot of us fall into when we have passions and compassions. And we talked about all of this because I want everybody to know what I know. But sometimes we assume everybody does and that everybody should get it just like you get it. And then you want to take that hammer and you don't just want to hammer the truth into yourself because you're too foolish to know that you still need to do that. You want to hammer the truth into everybody else, and you might need a little bitty hammer. You got a big old sledgehammer. Hammering it in. Then you lose people. Because here it is. It makes this difficult to speak to when we're speaking at people. For those of you who know me, know I'm really big on this whole communication thing and listening And the fact that most of the time we listen with our ears, but we listen in order to ask a question that may or not be actually being asked. We're not listening to hear. And that takes a lot, because sometimes what you hear might not be what you want to hear. You might want to hear that you're right. And I talk to the Grand Sheik about this often. When people want to hear that they're right, they're going to go to the person that's going to tell them they're right. They're not going to go to the person that is going to say, you might want to think that over again. They're not going to go to the person that says, do you really want to work that hard? Because, yeah, I want to work that hard. I want to go fight. So I'm coming to see you because you're going to come fight with me. You're going to physically fight with me. You're going to mentally fight with me. But you're not really fighting with me. Because if you were, you would be helping me fight my lower self that has me thinking that I'm the truth and the only way to go. The wise man doubts often. He changes his mind often, and he feels his imperfections. So at the moment when you're like, oh, I might not want to answer that question because what if I'm not right? The fact that you have an idea that you could say something that is not correct shows some wisdom. And I know of the people that I see in this room, and most likely the ones that I don't know that are in this room, we all do it. I do it all the time. I get up in front of a group of students and I'm like, whew, let me research this real good, because the student might have Googled or looked up something that I'm not aware of yet. But the way you handle that is to be aware that something might have changed, or someone might be aware of something that you're not, and be comfortable with it. A wise man is comfortable with knowing that they don't know everything. Islam? So in order to get to, because we were talking about Elihu's lessons and why Mary and Elizabeth needed to be taught, as I was, again, reading, and I read a lot of things. I read all the time. I read about science. I read about math. Not so much about history, because the brother Chris Grail is a big history buff, so it's always some history stuff there for me that I can actually listen to. But I read about a lot of things, anything that piques my interest, even if it's just a little bit, a snippet here, a snippet there. And I don't read it just to say, okay, well, I'm going to follow this. You read it to see sometimes what rhetoric is out there. Yeah, that doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense. So how do we reach where we're actually picking things apart? Because there's a lot of information out there. In the prophet's literature way back then, he talked about how there are people who are just like us doing things that are against all of us. And we see it in today's society, which is that was the most amazing thing to me, because this was 100 years ago. And we see it in today's society. There's still people who are just like us doing things that are against us. Therefore, against them. Tearing up our own and bringing us back into slavery. I remember something. My grandma used to have a lot of sayings. So
all our grandmas.
It had a lot of sayings. She talked about crabs in the barrel mentality and all kinds of stuff. So that's some of it. What do we need to do to get out of that mentality? And what we need to do is we need to think about the lessons that were being taught so we can share them with each other and share them with future generations. So what were the lessons in chapter 2? Talks about the education of Mary and Elizabeth and Zoe in Egypt. And it's actually, when you get down to verse 14, is what Elihu had to say to them. And it is in line with what we need to say to ourselves in order so that we're in the correct line of thinking. And these your sons will be the first to tell the news and teach the gospel of good will to men and peace on earth. A mighty work is theirs, for carnal men want not the light, they love the dark. And when the light shines in the dark, they comprehend it not. We call these sons revealers of the light, but they must have the light before they can receive the light. And you must teach your sons and set your souls on fire with love and holy zeal, and make them conscious of their missions to the sons of men. Teach them that Allah and man are one. but that through carnal thoughts and words and deeds, man tore himself away from Allah, debased himself. Teach that holy breath would make them once again, restoring harmony and peace. Thoughts? I see a lot of looks on people's faces, so I know it's some thoughts out there.
Basically, you got to, well, tying into what you were saying about being wise, you have to be able to handle the information, be able to, digest it and then send it back out, so to speak. Like if you're not ready for it, it won't hit you the way it's intended to be delivered to you. That's kind
Might tear you up.
Yeah. You got some people that take advantage of others too. They might have the right information and present it falsely for self gain or whatever. So that's not somebody that's got light to me. Somebody that's in their lower self.
Oh, somebody that's in their lower self. So you mean to tell me that basically a mighty work is theirs, for carnal men want not the light, they love the dark, and when the light shines in the dark, they can't comprehend it. Go figure. They might say they want it, we say we want a lot of things, but the things that you truly want, the things that you truly need, are not easy. Put it in the context of people going to school and going to work, working long hours. You might want things that those give you, but do you want the commitment that it takes to get there? Walking in light, revealing light takes a commitment. And that's part of the importance of why Mary and Elizabeth had to be taught these things. They had to be taught them for these reasons. And then that took me someplace else. It's amazing because I'm sitting at home sometimes and things just like unfold. And I remember when I first started hearing that word, and I believe it was Brother Dandridgel was talking, and he was talking about the unfoldment. And I could see, I almost rolled my eyes in because I had a flashback. But because what do you mean, the unfoldment? Well, when I think about it, I actually think about the petals of a flower, not necessarily something that's unfolding in the sense of unfolding a piece of paper. Or like the layers of an onion is something that's frequently used in psychology because it's all still there, but it's opening up more so that things can come out and so that light and things can come in, which is a totally different thought than I had when I first came to the temple. And again, I love talking about when I first came to the temple because I was that one that if I could have, I would have. So I love sharing that story because I want other people to understand what the importance is, and that no matter where you are in life, you can find something. And the more you're in it, the more you're in it. I remember that there was this minister a long time ago. I've been to multiple churches, and the minister, he was either at a church or on television, but he would always talk about this fire in his belly. And okay, you got a fire in your belly. What, you got indigestion? I mean, I didn't know what does that mean, until you actually feel it. It's like a trembling. It's like you're there. Okay, this is good. Some people refer to it as anxiety and angst. That, oh, I got that feeling in my stomach, so that means that something is going to happen tomorrow, or something is going to happen later on today. How many of you have felt that before? And sometimes something good happens, but the angst feeling didn't go away, so we're waiting on a bad thing to happen. Because we've been conditioned to believe that if we have that feeling, that something that's going to happen is automatically going to be bad. So even if we make bad choices to make that bad thing happen, we're going to make that feeling be related to that. Well, I got a fire in my belly and it's been there for a while and nothing bad has been the result of it. Doesn't mean that things that I didn't want to happen haven't happened, but they weren't related. That fire is something that's completely different. Sometimes you hear in metaphysical things, you talk about chakras and you talk about meditating and all these different things, and it sounds like a lot of joking and it can't possibly be real, but it's an actual science. And people get ridiculed about using that science, about using that clarity, about meditating and hearing this voice, because the voice told me to do it. I was talking to one of the sisters earlier today, and we were talking about how different substances, people say this substance, I heard this and it told me to do it, and the next thing you know, you're labeled crazy. Well, perhaps you did because you were in what they call a lucid state, hear something, and you couldn't make the difference between what was a positive and a negative, so you just did what that voice told you to do. Is that? The sister that I'm talking about won't comment, so I'm just gonna keep on ragging on her though. No, she'll comment, just not today. She'll comment. She can today though. She said, you know, so those are important things to think about. But also in the Quran questions, does anybody have their Quran questions? The questionnaire. Okay, Islam. I want you to turn to 38. Because this is something. This thing right here is big when you think about how all of these things tie together and where they tie together at. So if you have your questionnaire, I'm going to read the question, and I'd like for you to give me the answer, okay? Starting at number 38. What's an angel?
Angel is a thought of Allah manifest as a human flesh.
What are the angels used for?
To carry messages to the four corners of the world, to all nations.
Just real quick, to clear that up for like some of the newer people that don't grasp the concept. So, you mean an angel doesn't have those big flappy wings and you know, the halo on his head or none of that?
I don't know. Let me check. No, I ain't got it. I don't know. I got a halo. I got a halo. But yeah, to clear that up. Islam.
Well, you know, because the concept is to, you know, they don't want us to know that, you know, what does the angel do? Deliver the message of Allah. So they don't. It's like they want to break that tie from, you know, you knowing what you are. They want you to think that an angel is something that can't be, you know, can't be encountered, or think of it as, you know, inaccessible, so to speak.
Islam. Yes.
Islam. So is a prophet a form of an angel?
We get into that.
Oh, you're
Get into that. So the brother said, "Is a prophet a form of an angel?" Okay, well, let's ask this question. What is our prophet to us?
Since you bring us to that
I thought I was getting smart. Like, look at me.
You see, but you see how good that was? You see that tie? That's my whole point. You think you add, okay, wait a second. So is this that? This is that. So no, that was great, because that was perfect. I couldn't have asked. If somebody didn't know better, they'd have probably thought I set it up.
Oh, okay.
No, we are taught that, okay, the angel looks like this. But even Jesus said, when Jesus arose, that we too could do those things. We've heard it. You didn't just have to hear it here. You could be in any church and find that passage in the Bible. It says it, but for some reason, it's said, we move past it, we glaze over it, and we don't realize what it actually means. And that's important. So number 41. 41. What is the everlasting gospel?
It is a saving power that comes from Allah through our ancient forefathers by His word.
What is the covenant of the great God Allah? Okay, so I'm gonna say that because it was all kinds of stuff going on here. Everybody answered it, but it was all over the place. So, what is the covenant of the great God Allah? Honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long upon the earth land, which the Lord thy God Allah hath given thee. So that goes back to nationality. It all just comes together. And again, I still think about Brother Grail coming in talking about you need to claim your nationality, and I was like, yeah, whatever you need to get out of my face. But and I was wrong, because the lower self is strong sometimes. But you know, and I didn't understand what was being said. But what was actually being said is, if we know our lineage and our genealogy, which goes to 27, will you give me a brief inline genealogy through which Jesus came. And it talks about Boaz by Ruth. And as we go through the questionnaires, it talks about who Ruth was. And then when we talk about where that area of the world was, and you look at Pangea and how it's separated, and you can look Pangea up and see. I've actually seen there's one website that shows a globe, and the globe is spinning, and it shows a separation, and it shows it coming back together. And the lines that are crooked actually meet back together and show where the world was just once this one big area of land, one landmass. So as we go through all of those things, now we've entered another realm. So now we're in geography. So we did some history, we did some geography, we did some science, we talked about some math, we talked about some technology, and all of it goes back to stuff that was written and given to us 100 years ago that still applies today. That's truly one of the most amazing things out of all of it, because I'm a scholar, and most scholars want to prove things wrong, which is how they end up actually supporting the thing that they wanted to prove wrong, present company included. It's important, like, as you go forward and you start talking to people and you're telling people that you think about the things that you know and the gifts that you already have. Who has a regular, doesn't necessarily have to be a job that you work every day, but a career. And it could be, you could be an artist and it's your career. I'm sure just about everybody in this room has a career and can actually think about these principles and how they apply to your career. Okay, well, wow. I do this and this is the same as this, but it came out of this Quran and out of this questionnaire and out of this teaching from the prophet. And it's like, wow. I'm feeling like that emoji. Yeah. I love emojis, so feeling like it right there. But it's amazing. And it's an amazing world that we live in. Going back to the questionnaires, because it's easy to get distracted for me because I get excited. I get excited more and more every time. So 43, this is actually my youngest son's favorite one. At what age did Jesus begin to teach?
At the age of 12.
Where did he teach?
India, Africa, and Europe.
How long did he teach?
18 years.
That's interesting because India, Africa, and Europe aren't mentioned in many of the Bibles as India, Africa, and Europe. So that means that there's 18 years that are not necessarily counted for. True? They are in here. Islam.
Still, so why can I be an actor?
we gonna work. We getting you there, sir. We getting you there. Since I told you it's his favorite question, he knew exactly what I was talking about. My baby. So what did Jesus say that will make you free?
Truth.
What is the truth?
Truth is all.
What is ought?
Ought is Allah.
Can the truth change?
Truth cannot change or pass away.
What other names do we give the truth?
Holy breath.
What have you to say about the holy breath?
All we can say is that it's great, it is good, it was, it is, evermore.
Amen. So actually, those questions right there just talked about all of those things that we just said all the way up until now. And that brief amount of questions, that was from 38 to 51. Then we have the Quran that substantiates them. We have some literature that was written a long time ago. We talked about the presence of these exact same principles in a Bible. And it's like, wait a second. But I'm going to take it a little bit further. Who's surprised by that? It's always something. It's always something. Always got a trick up your sleeve. So let's go on to chapter 8, which is on page 13 in Quran, the Moore Science Temple of America. Please, if you have one and there's somebody sitting beside you that doesn't share, makes life easy. When I was looking at this, it's chapter 8. Jesus reveals to the people of their simple ways. Yeah. Come here, we talk about sin on earth. You go other places, we talk about sin on earth. You watch TV, you see sin on earth. Sin is everywhere. But the first discussion of this for these last couple of days actually came from Brother Murray Bay on Friday. And it has had my brain going all weekend. For those of you who know about the conversations that we have in our chat and when we're not here at the temple, we are a very connected group of people. So I even said a couple of things that this brought about, in my mind. So it starts out, in all the cities of Orissa, Jesus taught. At Katak, by the riverside, he taught, and thousands of people followed him. One day a car of Jagannath was hauled along by scores of frenzied men. And Jesus said, so let me back up. Who knows what Jagannath is? Yeah, I didn't either.
Right.
I didn't either. You thought I was going to have it. I didn't either, although I do remember that this has been talked about here at the temple before. And I was taking notes and things, and I was like, oh, well, went over that word, so I'm supposed to know it, I guess. Yeah, I don't think I was supposed to know that word as I think back to it, but there's that thing inside of this that's like, well, I don't want to admit I don't know it. As you see, all of you, I said, who knows what it means? People look down. Yeah, so I decided that since I didn't know what it was, I would look it up. So a Jagannath, also spelled Jagannnath, is a deity used in regional traditions of Hinduism and Buddhism. It's abstract. What do you think what do you think stuck out to me, or what stuck out to you when it comes to that definition I just read? I'm gonna read it again. It's a deity used in regional traditions of Hinduism and Buddhism as abstract.
Abstract, I'm sorry, it's not abstract, stuck out to me.
So it's like a statue or something like physical. It looks like something physical that they were worshiping.
Is
I say,
like an idol?
yeah, I was gonna say deity.
Okay. Yeah, see, look at that. I like that kind of movement that's going on in here. So yeah, it is. Notice it's abstract, like we said. Abstract can actually mean false sometimes, not necessarily, because an abstract idea, the way that the term is often used is the way that a lot of us think. If I think and I feel and I meditate and I hear a voice, that's abstract to some people. One of the things that stuck out to me is a regional tradition. Is the truth regional?
No.
So this deity that's abstract in this sentence can't really be a true deity in this sense. Islam? Which Jesus said, behold, a form without a spirit passes by, a body with no soul, a temple with no altar fires. Confirmation of, and I love confirmation. I'm a big confirmation person, because a lot of times we get, I might have it, I might not have it. So you go looking and seeking and finding, and what's confirmation? Okay. This car of Krishna is an empty thing, for Krishna is not there. Who knows what Krishna means?
Saying that it was like a god of reincarnation or something like that.
Not quite.
Is that the one that's kind of blue? Has like 4 arms or something like that?
He described it. There are pictures that look like that. They do talk about reincarnation when they're talking about Krishna. But in all actuality, Krishna represents compassion, tenderness, and love. So Jesus said, this car of Krishna is an empty thing, for Krishna is not there. This car with this regional abstract deity is empty because it has no compassion, tenderness, or love. Oh, that was kind of big, huh? Mhm.
They're carrying that.
It ain't there. It's just empty. It's floating around in somewhere, but inside of there it's empty. It made me think of like, one of a big piggy bank. Porcelain piggy bank is what came to my mind. The piggy bank is empty unless you put something in it. Well, we're empty, so we think, unless we put something in us, and that something is the truth. And believing in the truth, sit back around that circle again. Islam. This car is but an idol of people drunk on wine of carnal things. There's that idol the sister talked about. And then there's that drunk on wine of carnal things. There's that alternate substance that we were talking about. Allah lives not in the noise of tongues. There is no way to him from any idle shrine. It's not what you say. The prophet said it's in your words, actions, and deeds. You can look as good as you want to look every day. But if you're ugly on the inside, then ugly is what you portray. So we have to seek to be different. You got that pensive look on your face back there. Brother Rossell, what you thinking back there? I like how you took the dive. It's everything you speaking on. Brother Rossell has psychology in his background as well, so I'm sure I can just about imagine what things are going on in his mind as he thinks about some of these concepts, because we're trained to use them in a different abstract way to talk people down. I think about movies that I watch, and I used to be a scary movie person until watching the Amityville Horror after I got older. Because think about movies that you watch, scary movies that you watched, and the things that happen. And there's always a crazy person, isn't there? And what does the crazy person usually do aside from kill people? What usually gets that started? What is it? Intimidation, because sometimes they feel intimidated and internalize it.
Something, a thought process that's internal.
A thought process that's internal. Is there ever a voice? Do they hear something? They always hear something. Again, back to what I said. Islam, what were you going to say?
I think that what they imply that you're
He said he thinks that they imply that you hear voices. Because if this person did this irrational thing because they were paying attention to their lower self because they couldn't rise up or chose not to rise up to their higher self, then we'd have to accept that there was something different. Islam? Interesting. Allah's meeting place with man is in the heart. Where's the heart?
Mind.
In the mind. And in a still small voice he speaks, and he who hears is still. So if that voice of Allah, who's commanding somebody to do something, would it ever be carnal or ugly, evil, dirty, malicious, or any of those things? It couldn't be. It wouldn't be a loud voice screaming at them over and over and over again. We were talking on Islam.
That just kind of stood out too. He said, he who hears is still. So he's not all amped up, loud, rowdy, he's level, he's calm. That just stood out to me.
He who hears is still. You can't hear a still voice if you're not still. You can't hear a calm, still voice in the midst of angst. You have to calm down. Remember, meditation is listening and receiving an answer. And praying is asking and talking to God. So when you meditate, are you bouncing all over the place? It's not possible. Last week I talked about, I don't remember whether it was in here or where I was at, but I talked about how slow, deep breaths and meditation, we're taught that, okay, something, well, those things don't necessarily work. You know, you need medication or something to dull the pain. Yet we talk about guided imagery and teach women natural childbirth breathing techniques. So half the time we're walking oxymorons. It won't work on your broken leg, but it'll work on her giving childbirth. I've given birth. If it works on that, trust me, it will work on any bone you ever break in your body. But that's the opposite of the way that we're taught to think, because if we go back to talking about we as angels, we being able to do things that we've been taught that we weren't able to do and that we're not able to do, then we can't possibly work it out like that. Can't possibly be calm enough. So that person that says that they were stable when they got to the hospital and something was wrong with them, like a broken leg, a broken back, a broken whatever. Now they had to be high on something, because it couldn't possibly be that they calmed themselves down enough so that their own internal endorphins kicked in and got them there comfortably, could it? And then all of a sudden they get to the hospital, so they're like writhing in pain and they're out of control and oh my goodness, they're drug seeking. No, perhaps when they got to the hospital, all of those things that were going on, or even before then, somebody coming out and seeing it disrupted that calmness and peace. You ever thought about that? And if you did think about it and you said it to somebody, what is that person gonna say to you? You tripping. The brother said they're gonna say you tripping in some ways. You right. I mean, that's the type of response you end up getting. When in all actuality, we know it's not true because it's being taught, and the opposite is being taught at the same time. Interesting. And all the people said, teach us to know the Holy One who speaks within the heart, Allah of the still small voice. And he speaks within the what? So again, that's where you're going to hear it at. But you know what's really amazing? When you start hearing it, you get that right here, and then you get worked up. Because, first of all, you think you heard something, but you didn't hear it here. You heard something up here, I think, but I can't hear up here because these are my ears and ain't nobody there. I must be tripping. And then there goes that little angst feeling in your belly that we get scared of, and we got to back up and find something else to do because we can't concentrate on that because we're not supposed to, because it's not real, is it? Oh, but we just proved it was. Islam says the person who wants to disprove every theory on the planet. So it's like that's my job that I don't get paid for, to spend time trying to prove things that are not correct. Actually, I do get paid for it sometimes because I do some legal nurse consulting. So they send me cases and say, what do you think about this? I work for people and companies. It just depends. And so I do get paid to pick things apart. And I enjoy that a lot because who gets paid to pick things apart? It's like the best thing ever. And I get to see how different things actually work. And it's been really enlightening with the knowledge that I have of people, even more so now that I've been a member of the Moral Science Temple and really got deep into my studies. And looking at cases where, yeah, I can look at this and I could twist this in a way that when I got up there as an expert witness, the judge is going to side with this company. Research and the findings of research are often skewed. I can also look at this in truth and say, I can't believe that attorney for the plaintiff actually took this case because they know they were wrong, because the company is not at fault. So they just took somebody's money. Those are actually the hardest ones. And you wonder, I get paid either way it goes. So, but they're the hardest ones because here I am. I'm working, and usually it's when I'm working on the side of an organization, because I'm never going to say to a person yes, you should fight this if you shouldn't. It's just gonna give you a headache. Give me a headache. You're still not gonna win. When that's the hardest is when I'm on the side of a company and I know that somebody filed something because somebody gave them an idea that it was a good thing to file. And yeah, it really wasn't. Although, if I want to skew the facts, I could make it look like it was good. The difference is, and you talked about this, Brother Murray Bay, you talked about the balance. The balance is, the truth is still the truth. Whether it's big business or individuals, the truth is all. And that's what makes those cases very difficult for me. But I still love picking the stuff apart, because that's fun. It's fun. Thoughts about that? Somebody got some thoughts. Ain't no thoughts. It's okay, y'all can tell me later. I'm here all day. And Jesus said, the holy breath cannot be seen with mortal eyes, nor can men see the spirit of the Holy One. You can't see it with these eyes. I don't care how thick your glasses are. I don't care how 20/20 your vision is. Can't see it that way. But in their image, man was made. And he who looks into the face of man looks at the image of Allah who speaks within. And again, we're all bound by cords to every other living thing. Regardless of how a person makes you feel, because you know that feel is here. Regardless of how a person makes you feel, the only way to actually show them how they need to be is be the love that you want to see in the world. See Allah in everybody. Everybody and every living thing. As the trees change color, that last week we had a deer come walking up here. We got some ducks or geese out there today. So all of those things. When somebody tells you something you don't want to hear, we don't have to be harsh. We can state the facts. And sometimes I've been accused of, and I'm going to have to say accused of because that's what it felt like. Not that that's what the person actually meant. So I'm using my terminology of being blunt, rough around the edges, unapproachable. Me? I think that's because I possess the ability to put a period at the end of the sentence. Well, when you put a period at the end of the sentence, most people think you're putting an exclamation point. For me, what that means is I said it, it just is. I have no emotions around it. I had a conversation here earlier today. This brother right here could attest to the conversation. He wasn't a part of it, but he was a part of it. And we were discussing setting up the room. And I said, well, that's not right, to one of the other brothers. And he said, but it is right. That's the way we always do it. And we've been doing it like that. And I said, well, that's not the way I did it. And he said, well, maybe you did it wrong. And I said, maybe I did. And there was the period. What the brother did. But let me show you. Maybe I did. Okay, you've been doing it. You did it longer than me. That's the end of it. And some people have said, but you didn't hear how you said that. There's that emoji again. Not sure how I should have said it because I just said, well, maybe you are right. And there's a period. And then I move on. Hard for people to see and understand because that's not what people usually see and understand. There's always someone feeling like, I need to prove I'm right. I used to feel like, oh, well, I know this. And if you're going to tell me something different, you need to prove me wrong. The thing is, I still feel like this. I don't know that I'm right, but if you're telling me that I'm not, and it's something that I've looked, I've done, I've this, then yeah, I want you to show. It's not that I want you to prove it to me. I want you to show me where I'm wrong so I can get better. Islam? Yes.
How many people want to be wrong?
Good question. The brother said, how many people want to be wrong? Well, you know, it's not that. That's a good question. We were given an example about setting up a room.
That's why.
And certain sister standing right here was like, well, you could be right. There's a period at the end. And that throws people off is what I was saying, because there shouldn't be a period right there. Don't you want to fight about it? No. And this is one of the best places that I've been, meaning inside this me, that I've been probably since I was a kid, because yeah, some things just really aren't that important. Because the importance is believing the truth, knowing the truth, sharing the truth, and working up with following it. So no matter how this room was set up, I was gonna get up here and say what I was gonna say and get out there and spread whatever it was that I wanted everybody to get. So that really wasn't a big deal. And what if I was wrong? Could be. I run into it with students. How many of you have a job where you run into it where people are like, no, that's not the way you do it, and you've been doing it forever? You done did it before. Somebody done told you was wrong before. How many of you are in relationships with other people, friends, cousins, and you know this is it can be screwing in a light bulb, and you know that's the way it goes, but somebody else says, no, but the last time we did it this way. Islam? That's what I was just talking about. I just got called out about what I was actually talking about though. And then, but then it was like, okay, it's not a big deal. But it happens to us all the time. And we want to fight the fight, even when there's nothing to fight about. Islam? But in their image, man was made, and he who looks into the face of man looks at the image of Allah who speaks within. And when man honors man, he honors Allah. And what man does for man, he does for Allah. So again, we go back to those people or that person or that cat, that dog, that whatever it was that really made us angry. And we think about everything being bound by cords. And we think about if we see Allah in all of these things, how can we have some of the reactions that we have? How? When you leave here today, think about them. Because yes, we talked about this and we're going to get a little bit further down and it's going to come up again. And let's see, where's it at? I want to say it might be in 13. Yeah, that's where it's going to be at. And we think about people who, you trying to hurt me, so I got to hurt you. Is that really what we need to be doing? Islam?
Well, I would like to finish he was like something that you're wrong. Isn't it about the perspective or the goal of the person that's trying to achieve whatever they're trying to do? They're with the light bulb. If you say, okay, this is how you're supposed to do this, and turn it in and twist it 5 times, then it's going to come in. Now, from my perspective, if I twist it, turn it 3 times, it's going to save me 2 gigawatts of energy or whatever. Okay, it might not work like that at your house, but in my house, if I'm going to save 3 gigawatts of energy or whatever. So isn't it about the perspective or the goal of the individual?
It's about the goal of the individual, but what you did was you we was up here, you got all the way down to here. So notice I said screwing in the light bulb. Now how many times you screw it to screw in the light bulb?
But you know how.
I do. That's why I love the dialogue and engaging. So what the brother said was, is it about what the perspective is of the person? For anybody who might be out there and can't hear what this perspective is of the person, they're having the dialogue. So taking 5 turns to screw in the light bulb versus 3 because one may give you more output and use less energy, ultimately not making you pay as high of a light bill. Is that where we're going?
Yeah.
Okay. So whatever the goal is. So yeah, that could be the case. But when I said that, and this is what's interesting, because you and I just did she said, he heard. Because when I said that, I was thinking about the direction of screwing the light bulb and not how many times. The perspective, because Yeah, I could have very well have been thinking that, but I was thinking to myself, you just want to be sure that it connects. Islam?
Islam, I'm just thinking when psychology outdoes itself.
When psychology outdoes itself, expand, please.
It's a shout out at Rossdale. That's all.
Couldn't help yourself, could you?
Couldn't help myself.
It's okay, we're gonna send you those positive vibes that I sent out a little bit ago. Yeah, we sent out those positive vibes.
And then the hospital.
Everybody reach forward and extend them to him. Just joking. But seriously though, you know, it does depend on perspective. And one of the sisters here that was here last week talked about experience. And those things do have an impact on how we react. And sometimes, you know, say leave your baggage at the door, put it in the closet, whatever. I say burn it, because if you leave it at the door, you put it in the closet, you ship it away, you can always grab it again. But you need to mentally burn some of those things so that you don't hang on to them, because when you hang on to them, then you can't live in that love that we supposed to be putting out there, because you're still hanging on to something that you can't correct because it was yesterday. Yesterday has never been corrected. You correct today in preparation for the future. And you must bear in mind that when man harms in thought or word or deed another man, he does a wrong to Allah. If you will serve Allah, who speaks within the heart, just serve your near of kin and those who are of no kin, the stranger at your gates, and the foe who seeks to harm you. Oh, wait a minute. Who we serving? Who got a Quran open that can go ahead and read on page 13, chapter 8, verse 13 for me? Might as well.
Verse 13. If you would serve Allah, who speaks within the heart, just serve your near of kin, and those who are of no kin, who are no kin, the stranger at your gates, the foe who seeks to do you harm.
So, well, the thing that first sticks out is, okay, the Allah who speaks in your heart, which means Allah is actually speaking in your mind. So where are your feelings at? Now I'm getting ready to go to that psychology stuff. Where are your feelings at? Are your feelings really in your mind? Or do you feel with your chest? You hurt my feelings and you get that little, is it deep where Allah is speaking at, or is it something superficial? And why do we struggle with it?
It sounds like a state of a mind state.
A state of a mind state. Is it a true mind state?
The flesh is hurt.
Oh, so it's a fleshly lower self mind state.
Yeah.
Is the flesh or the lower self the truth? I'm just asking. No? So, is it a true mind state? Can't be if it's the lower self Islam.
I think I posted something the other day. You ended up it speaks to class, but I had posted something like you have to train your mind to be stronger than your actual feelings.
Islam, yes you did, and yes I did like the status. The sister posted, you have to train your mind to be stronger than your feelings, because those things that are feelings go back to those desires, that carnal self. The truth is the higher self. You can't hurt the truth, because the truth has a period at the end of it. Islam? Y'all are quiet up in here. Y'all don't want to play with me?
You got a degree in psychology.
But I'm not using it. I'm here, wait, I'm speaking the prophet's words right now. It ain't got nothing to do with the degree in psychology.
Yeah.
And actually, you know what? I say it doesn't have anything to do with the degree in psychology, but it really does, because a lot of the techniques that are used in psychology, the training, the programming, the looking into the mind of people, you're not looking into the mind of the person. You're looking into the lower self, the carnal thoughts, those wishes, those desires, those actions that don't give anybody anything, but promise a whole lot of things. Think, I'm gonna get revenge. You ain't got to worry about it. We use karma in a way that karma actually shouldn't be used. Karma is a double-edged sword. I don't have to worry about it because he or she is gonna get theirs. In all actuality, karma means that Allah is going to do what Allah saw fit for the justice of whatever the situation is. And we simply don't have to worry about it. But do we worry about it? All the time. Things like that are the things that lawsuits are built on. Good or bad, it's what they're built on. I want somebody to pay for something. And lawsuits come out of everything. A building structure, a fire, a medical thing, a business. They come out of everything. And ultimately, the end goal of the person who is filing the lawsuit is justice. And ultimately, the supreme justice comes from where? So, in the event that that was what a person chose to do they need to keep worrying about that thing? They don't.
Sound like to me, laws and everything.
Law is in everything. Allah is in everything, and that's what we need to remember. Islam. Y'all don't want to play with my fire today. I told you I got a fire in my belly. Y'all don't want to play.
I'm ready to play.
We need to set up this YouTube channel so that people could be like tapping in and saying stuff. We don't get on that.
Right.
Y'all don't want to play with me today.
I'm ready to play. That's all.
We letting you get into your physical state because you just came home from work, you know. So you just arrived home. Assist the poor and help the weak. Do harm to none and covet not what is not yours. So last week we talked about how Allah has given every person their portion according to what they're supposed to have. We don't have to worry about these things, but we do all the time. And isn't it amazing that I'm looking at this and I'm reading this and I guarantee, I'm willing to bet that almost everybody out there, even the babies who don't know that they could do it if you phrase it in a certain way, can speak to how this would fit into every one of our lives. It might not be that I want yours, but I want one like yours. You know, but that's still coveting. Islam? Then with your tongue, the Holy One will speak, and he will smile behind your tears, will light your countenance with joy, and fill your hearts with peace. So if you're doing these things correctly, if you are speaking within the heart, serving your near kin, those who are no kin, the stranger at your gates, and the foe who seeks to harm you, because we're all connected by cords, and that is everything and everybody. And if we're assisting the poor and helping the weak, and doing no harm to none, and not coveting what is not ours, then with your tongue, the Holy One will speak. So as you start to live in that you're living in will start to come out in you. And we can look at it like it's our mouth is the only place that it comes out. But remember, all of this is talking about words, actions, and deeds. There's an action in this. Islamism, it's an action in this. And that's what people begin to see. They don't know why they see it. You ever walk in a store? Sometimes we leave here, we go by the store, and you walk in, everybody wants to speak to you. How you doing? I've had people walk up to me and say, no, I just feel like I need to speak to you. Can I give you a hug? Or, you know, and here's another thing. I used to get upset about this, but I thought about it because I thought it was just somebody's curiosity or they were being weird or ignorant. Can I touch your hair? Who's had that before? Islam. Okay, can I touch your hair? If somebody wants to touch your hair, and you're like, no, you weirdo, or whatever you're thinking, perhaps it's something that they actually see that you don't see. Perhaps it's your aura, it's your spirit that's actually drawing them in. And we need to think about this before we react to things. Now, I'm not walking up asking random people if I can pet their hair. I'm probably not going to walk up to the people that I know saying, can I pet your hair? But we actually need to think about why somebody might want to do this, or why do we hug? Why do we shake hands? Why are we drawn to shake some people's hands and not drawn to shake others? Have you ever been in a room where somebody wanted to shake your hand and you didn't really want to shake theirs? And you're like, I don't know about this, because you just had this feeling that, and it was almost like, even though they could be clean, as my granny used to say, clean as a board of hell on a Saturday morning, they could be clean, but you just didn't want to shake their hand, but they were determined to shake yours. Perhaps that thing that you saw dominate in them and not that thing that is them, they saw the opposite in you. And that was light that you could actually bring to them. So we have to think about all of our actions and deeds. And yes, Brother Grail, I lived in the South. I know exactly what you're talking about. And sometimes here in the North, it might be the East, the West, you could be almost anywhere and run across those things. But you need to start, thinking about, what does this actually look like? What does this actually mean? What is this person actually saying when they see me? Because on the inside, I might feel like, ooh, I'm ready to explode. But that might be an emotion and not the spirit self that's showing itself. Islam? Then it talks about that you'll smile behind your tears. On the worst of the day, I remember my grandmother used to say, another my granny. One of my grannies always had something to say. Y'all got them grannies, y'all know. I'm one of them grannies right now because I'm speaking what mine used to say. Sometimes it's better to laugh instead of crying. And when you think about what those things meant, might not necessarily mean that she wasn't crying, but all of a sudden in the midst of tears, there would be this laughter. But that laughter was like one of those hearty laughters that came from way down here. Or at the time that the person is really angry, and all of a sudden there's that laughter. One of the things that and I can't remember where I was at, could have been a seminar or something, but in order to ease angst, they take a deep breath in and then just laugh as loud as you can. And then it brings everything back down. It's an amazing little trick. I encourage y'all to try it. Be lucky. Be glad I ain't saying, let's do it right now.
Islam.
Islam.
I do that all the time too. It's like almost like going to the bathroom in a way that you drink water all day and you gotta really some way do it now before it gets too critical in a dark place, whatever it is. It's like what you just said.
Islam, yeah. So brother said it's almost like when you drink something all day long, you gotta go to the bathroom. You need that relief. And that is an excellent analogy because that's exactly what it's like. And it's like it comes from here. And all of a sudden, it's okay. Now, the rest of the world might look at you like you're crazy. But you feel so much better. And then it's funny sometimes to me because the way the other people are looking at me. Because I just did something that's ridiculous to them, but felt good to me. It also says, will light your countenance with joy and fill your hearts with peace. So even in the midst of a storm, if we're doing what we're supposed to do, we can have peace. If we think about that square, that compass, that axe, that hammer, that plane, that ladder, we work on the mind to get rid of those things that are not the truth. And then when we decide that we realize there's a truth, that we've all, I believe in this room, have said that we realize there is a truth. We say we believe the truth, but when you believe the truth, you live in that truth. And things don't mean the same. Islam? And then the people asked, to whom shall we bring gifts? Where shall we offer sacrifice? Where shall we offer sacrifice? Oh, brother, you're not watching the time. My timekeeper, I got you caught up, huh? Yeah, I got you caught up. We're a little bit over. It got good. Okay, I'm gonna wrap this up right here because I do want to talk about sacrifice really quick. Then we'll close it out. So, and then the people asked, to whom shall we bring gifts? Where shall we offer sacrifice? And Jesus said, our Father Allah asks not for needless waste of plant, of grain, of dove, of lamb. That which you burn on any shrine you throw away. No blessing can attend the one who takes the food from hungry mouths to destroy it by fire. So what is our sacrifice? What do we sacrifice? Oh, I thought the brother came to play.
Oh, Islam.
Yeah, I did. No, I'm talking to Brother Graham. If our sacrifice is not to take plant, grain, dove, lamb, whatever, and burn it, because there is no way that Allah is going to think it's a wonderful thing to get rid of something needlessly that could feed other people. What is our sacrifice? Sacrifice the Lord's self, Islam. Thoughts? I thought you had a thought already. Huh?
Sacrifice my baby.
When you would offer sacrifice unto Allah, just take your gift of grain or meat and lay it on the table of the poor. That also extends to any gifts that you might have. And what's that one gift? Oh, the gift of understanding. Understanding what? Understanding the truth. Oh. And then what do we do with it? We communicate it. Who do we communicate it to? Everybody. Islam? Okay, with that, let's close up. Oh, I'm sorry. We do need to do public donation. And we're going to wait until the brother Sheik goes ahead and gives us the amount, so the total, so that we know what the public donation was. Any comments, questions, anything like that right now? Nice ones.
Islam, $24.
Islam, $24 was the public donation. Islam. All face the east, heels together, 5 on the left, 2 on the right. Allah, Father of the first. Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my provider. And my guide. Through his holy prophet. And my salvation. Through his holy prophet.
I forgot my night,
Do we start over?
Okay, let's start over. Okay, Islam, what was actually occurring, Islam, is the young brother here was going to do it, and then we kind of got thrown out. Islam, there we go.
Go ahead, young Gray.
Allah.
Father of the universe, Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. My God, and my salvation, by night and by day, through the holy prophet, through all day. Amen.
Please stay standing. Same position. Allah, bind our hearts and minds back to our ancient forefathers, divine creed and principles. This we ask in thy holy name and the 7 Elohims. Amen.
Amen. It is wonderful to be young. Islam. Thank you, young Gray. We appreciate that. Get older, get things.